Hello, dear friends. I have the pleasure to have as a guest this evening a very special guest, Scotty Saks from United States. Hello, Scotty.
Marvin, it's good to see you. Thanks for having me on again.
Thank you for replying. Scotty, I'm going to tell a few words about you for our friends that maybe did not see any of our shows before, as we made dozens of shows together, but in previous years. So, Scotty, you are a journalist with more than 45 years of experience in this domain, and you are the host of a very important post in the United States, Sovereign Radio. So our listeners can see the logo that you have very soon. So let me start with some environmental questions. Where are you now in United States? In what city?
I am actually in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico right now, Marvin.
In Mexico.
Yes.
And how is the weather there? Because in Romania it's very rainy and cold.
Well, we're at the end of our rainy season, but it's warm. It's 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 90 degrees, and very warm and humid here. So, but this is precursor to the best weather in the world comes in November, December here.
Okay. So, Scotty, keeping in mind that you have a big experience in what is happening in United States and in political field and in all the others, I would propose to talk this evening about the big changes that are happening in United States under the administration of Donald Trump, but also about the big changes in the world. And, in Romania, people are watching very closely the events in US because, of course, United States is playing a huge role in the world. And also, we, Romania and United States, are strategic partners. And there is another reason, because most of Romanians put a lot of hope in US in defending our elected president, Călin Georgescu, that has been elected in November last year, but he was not let to take the lead as president because the former administrative power organized a coup d'etat. They wanted to keep the power supported by European Union. And many important people in US administration under Donald Trump said that it is an abuse. I would remember about G.D. Vance and Tucker Carlson and many others. Tulsi Gabbard, chief of Secret Services. So we are very interested about United States. And now, a few more words as an introduction. We know that after Biden administration, the United States was in a big crisis, not only political, but also financial, military, moral, cultural, in all the fields almost. And Trump managed to recover the United States enormously. And after that, in his mandate, in 8 months of president, we see a lot of good things that Donald Trump made. And I give few examples. He managed to close the border, the southern border. He managed to reduce the violence. He debunked the climate change scam. And in consequence, he spoke about the green energy that is not profitable for the people. It is actually a scheme of the elite in order to enslave the population with the taxes and keeping the energy sources. Um, Also, Donald Trump spoke about the strange situation of autism in United States, and I'm going to put a video if you have time. And he no longer supports Ukraine. And one last example, he signed an executive order putting Antifa out of the law. But we also see some things that get many people in the world, not only Romania, into confusion because it seems to have an unconditional support for Israel, especially for Prime Minister Netanyahu. We can see what is happening in Gaza. It's a genocide there, so it's hard to understand why Donald Trump supports this. And few days ago or 1 week ago, he signed a contract with Pfizer for new so-called vaccines, even if we know that during the pandemic, the vaccines were criminal. Actually, they killed a lot of people. And another example, Donald Trump seems to not support a real investigation into the Epstein list. I mean, who was involved, what for? So, how could we explain this behavior that looks controversial? Sometimes he looks as opposing the truth. So, is this a kind of strategy, or maybe he has been taken over by the globalists? I don't know.
Well, Marvin, let me start with the positive, and then I'll come back to those things you're questioning that make Donald Trump questionable. Has he been taken over by the globalists? Is this a strategy? Why doesn't he recognize certain things? Why does he have Pfizer to the White House? For that matter, why did he have Mark Zuckerberg sitting next to him at a dinner from Facebook? As we know, the media has been censoring Donald Trump since 2016. But let's talk about the things you addressed on a positive note. You know, Marvin, we have to go back to 2016, Donald Trump's first term. He laid a lot of groundwork for what's happening now. Don't think he could come into office in 2024 and in 8 months accomplish everything he has. The groundwork was laid in 2016 to 2020. Furthermore, during the 4 years of Biden, Trump had laid the groundwork for continuity of government, in which the military was actually in control of the United States. Joe Biden and the auto pen, I'm sure you've heard about the auto pen that signed all of his executive orders and all the bills. It wasn't Biden signing anything. It was his administration, his staff using an auto pen that signed his name. This was actually all in the hands of the military. Let's talk about the borders, the most important thing Trump did. During the Biden years, Marvin, they let in, now the estimates are anywhere from 25 to 40 million people 25 to 40 million illegal aliens in America. Well, our Homeland Security and our immigration teams called ICE are now in the cities cleaning up the streets. They're cleaning the illegals up. They're giving them incentives to turn themselves in. And moreover, the most important thing that's happening in cities like Chicago, LA, Portland, the blue cities where the Democrats run the cities, where they gave them safe haven. They gave the illegals safe haven in those cities. We have ICE, our borders and customs agents in the cities cleaning up the drug and human trafficking. This is the real agenda. You hear people complaining and moaning about Trump. What's he doing with military on the American streets? Why is he picking up U.S. residents? They're not U.S. residents. They're illegal immigrants. They're part of the cartels, Marvin, that deal in drugs and human trafficking. So that's what's happening in the cities. When you hear about the military, our National Guard, and ICE agents raiding Chicago and LA, he already did it in Washington, D.C., cleaned it up in 2 weeks. So when you put our military to work and you put them to good use, they're not in the streets of Chicago fighting American citizens. They're cleaning the streets up with the human and drug trafficking and the illegal immigrants. They tracked every illegal, Marvin, via the cell phones. Everyone was given a cell phone. Now, some of them dumped their cell phones and got burner phones. The criminals got burner phones. They knew better than to carry around the phones they were given. But most of the illegals were being tracked all throughout the Biden administration because, remember, the military was in control. Trump set up this thing called continuity of government, whereby the 4 years of Biden, it was actually our military generals running the United States. So he's cleaned up the borders. You know about Doge and Elon Musk and the Doge finding out where the money was going. The biggest chunk.
Pity that he did not continue after 1 month, I think.
Correct. He did it. I think he did it for like 90 days in total. He was in the background and then in the public eye only for 30 days. They accomplished their goal very quickly. He had the smartest computer hackers in the world working on this thing, and they found out the biggest chunk of money was coming through USAID, which is an organization that's funding NGOs around the world, supposedly to help people, to help citizens, to help organizations around the world, what we call NGOs, non-government organizations. In fact, USAID was funding the deep state. They were funding terrorism. They were funding media. 7,000 U.S. media organizations got money from USAID to deliver the narrative of the Democrats and the rhinos. We call the Republicans that are not really conservative rhinos. They were delivering the narrative. The media was delivering the talking points of the Biden administration through the money funded by USAID. Marvin, they funded 700 media organizations outside of the U.S., 8 out of 9 in Ukraine. So they were all on the same page, talking the same narrative points, pushing the same agenda, pushing immigration is a good thing. We need to be multicultural, pushing the transgender agenda. I don't know how far that agenda went in Romania, but they took the transgender agenda to the extreme in the United States. Trump has shut all that down. In fact, he just released 15,000 people that identified as transgender in the military. There were 8,000 soldiers and 7,000 officers that they actually identified as transgender. Trump eliminated them all. So there's
We saw that it was a meeting at Quantico, a military base,
Yes.
1 week ago, I think, and there were 800 generals And Donald Trump and his secretary for defense, they explained to military that it's over with fat, it's over with dress for women, and so on. So they have to be man and military, real military.
Yeah, they were all called to Quantico because Trump was briefing them on what was going on, why he's using the military in the streets of the United States. You know, we have this law called posse comitatus, which simply, I believe it's a Latin term, our military cannot be used against the American people. Well, they're not being used against the American people. As I stated earlier, they're being used against to round up illegal aliens that came in our country illegally, crossed the border during the Biden administration. They were not vetted, not identified. And to boot, Marvin, they were given cell phones and stipends every month, and housing and food. They were being well taken care of. Why? Because the Democrats see the illegals as a new voting class for Democrats. They can bring in 25, 30 million voters that are going to vote for them and create havoc in the streets of America, because crime was up, particularly very serious crimes, from rape to murder. It was happening in large numbers through these illegals. They were coming to our country not to adopt the American culture, Marvin, not like my grandparents and great-grandparents who came to America from Ukraine and Russia to be American, to adopt the American culture, to learn the English language, to assimilate into America. This is not happening with the last 4 years of these illegal immigrants. They didn't come to assimilate. In fact, the Islamic Caliphate is very busy in America trying to push Sharia law in cities where they can. So this is very critical that Trump is using our military in the streets, because nobody else can do it. Military is the only way to clean up 40 million illegals, the drug trafficking, the human trafficking, and so forth. Through USAID, they've shut down all the funding, Marvin. So NGOs like the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization, they can't fund anything anymore. Their money's cut off. The best way to stop the deep state is to cut off their money, right? Well, that's what Trump did. That's what Elon Musk's task was. Find out where all these U.S. taxpayer dollars are going. Where are they really going? And through USAID, over the years, Marvin, trillions of dollars were doled out through the NGOs like the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, the CDC in America, the Center for Disease Control. We have shut all that down in America.
I want to remind for our viewers that Donald Trump withdrew United States from World Health Organization, and also he withdrew United States from climate agreement from Paris. So these two domains are very, very important, and as you say, took a lot of American monies.
It's really an interesting time, Marvin. The other thing being impacted very directly is our media. Again, 7,000 media organizations in the U.S. were receiving money to use the talking points of the Biden administration. That money's been cut off. That was all going through USAID as well. So we not only have shall we say, a cleaning up of the deep state. Trump referred to it as draining the swamp. Not only draining the swamp in the military, but in the streets of America and our media. It's all coming to a head. And Marvin, this plan actually started in the 60s when John F. Kennedy was assassinated. 22 military generals got together and started this plan. They understood the deep state. They understood how the world worked through the Vatican, the bankers of London, and the U.S. military industrial complex. They knew that was the deep state, that the central bankers, the Federal Reserve, the Rothschild, the Rockefellers, the bloodlines that ran the central banks, the Vatican, and the U.S. military-industrial complex was used as the policeman of the world. Well, that actually started in the 60s. This is the culmination of 60-plus years of work. And again, Trump laid a lot of the groundwork in his first term, 2016 through 2020. So don't think for a minute he's been able to accomplish all this in 8 months. A lot of this was done in advance. For example, in 2017, Trump signed an executive order 13818, seizure of assets. If you were trafficking, involved in human trafficking or corruption anywhere in the world, the executive order allowed Trump to come in and seize your assets. They've been doing that since 2017, Marvin. They've been seizing the assets of these large organizations, including the Federal Reserve and the central bankers, the families, the bloodlines, if you will. Their assets are being seized.
But Scotty, please explain us the connection of Donald Trump with Benjamin Netanyahu, because this is the most confusing connection.
So we've got to separate the Israeli people and the state of Israel from the government of Israel. Just like we have to separate the people of the United States from our deep state government. Benjamin Netanyahu is factually, and Trump knows it, he's the head of the snake of the deep state in Israel, Marvin. The deep state in Israel has been used to control a large part of the Middle East. Donald Trump is acting. Keep your enemies close. Netanyahu, he may have a personal relationship with him, and he may actually like the man personally, but he knows that Netanyahu is the head of the snake of the deep state in this part of the world. And Netanyahu is going to go down. Believe me, they're saving Israel for last because they have to resolve the peace in the Middle East before they take Netanyahu down. I think he'll resign before they put him away. They really and truly, like many of the American politicians, should try Netanyahu publicly in a military tribunal, and that may happen too, Marvin. He may be tried publicly by a military tribunal. That's happening now all around the world in American naval ships offshore. They're holding these military tribunals right now for big names of people we know.
So, Scotty, please let me clear this. In Gaza, it is happening a real genocide. So we cannot agree with this, isn't it?
Yes, what's happening is the elimination of Hamas is the primary goal in Gaza. Of course, innocent people are going because Hamas uses women and children as shields, Marvin. They actually set up shop at schools, at mosques, at public places. They use the women and children as shields. So sadly enough, there is a genocide taking place of Palestinian people that are being used. It's Hamas who's putting them at risk. Israel doesn't choose to kill the women and children like Hamas did October 7th, as you know, the massacre in Israel. They choose to go after Hamas. The very, very exciting thing in the Middle East, Marvin, is there is an agreement on the table for Arab nations to control that Palestine and the Gaza Strip and that territory and take Israel and Hamas out of the equation completely, so that Israel has no say and Hamas has no say over the Palestinian territory. There'll be a group of Arab leaders like MBS, the leader of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates. These men will run and govern that territory known as Palestine, if you will, in the Gaza Strip?
Scotty, I think the situation is a bit more complicated in the Middle East because there are compelling information that Hamas was actually funded and financed by Israel, by Benjamin Netanyahu itself. There are declarations, statements made by officials of Israel, head of secret services, head of the army, former prime minister of Israel, and they all said, I have the video recording, that Hamas was created by and supported by Benjamin Netanyahu in order to have an enemy that he has a reason to oppose the two-state solution. And regarding the attacks in October 7, 2023, it is easy to see, even Charlie Kirk said this, that it does not fit that some very poor people like Palestinians attacked the most advanced military in the world, IDF, and IDF did not see in the beginning, they did not know, it's impossible, and they did not react for 6 or more hours. So there are some information that
Marvin,
are not very...
I think you bring up some very good points. First of all, let's talk about Netanyahu funding Hamas. The deep state and the central bankers always fought both sides of the war. They funded Hitler and they funded the opposing army to Hitler. The United States, the U.S. military-industrial complex was funded by the same people that funded Hitler. So indeed, Netanyahu, as I said, the head of the snake of the deep state in the Middle East, was funding Hamas. Obama funded ISIS. Hillary Clinton and Obama funded ISIS and other terrorist groups, Hezbollah. All these terrorist groups have been funded by the deep state, and Benjamin Netanyahu is part of that deep state. It's sad because many Israeli people don't understand this idea that while Benjamin Netanyahu may love his people, he may love his homeland, Israel, and he may love the people, but he was compromised years ago. Blackmail and bribery is the currency of the deep state. You and I understand how they blackmail and bribe people. That addresses Epstein. I do want to address that. Trump is keeping the Epstein under wraps, acting like he doesn't care about it, like it's no big deal. It's an act, Marvin, just like the act with Netanyahu. Trump is a master at playing chess. He doesn't play 3D chess. He plays 5D chess. He is a master. His favorite book is The Art of War. Appear strong when you are weak and appear weak when you are strong. He is appearing to be weak with Netanyahu when in fact he is actually going to be part of taking Netanyahu down. You watch and see what happens.
Just a second. I want to put a video with what I said previously, with officials of Israel that said that Hamas is funded by Netanyahu. So let's see this.
Netanyahu deliberately boosted Hamas to try to prevent a Palestinian state.
Yeah, sure. He deliberately and systematically even told, on record, whoever wants to avoid the threat of a two-state solution has to support my policy of paying protection money to the Hamas.
So what we did, with the permission of our Prime Minister, is to let Qatar to transfer a huge amount of money in cash, probably more than $1.4 billion. By doing it, we increased the power of Hamas. We did everything in order to make sure that Hamas will go on controlling Gaza, and Palestinian Authority will control the West Bank, so they will fight each other.
Netanyahu maintains the Qatar money was to avoid a humanitarian catastrophe. Having helped to build up Hamas, Netanyahu has now vowed to destroy it.
He fed the beast and it exploded in our face. If you base your national security strategy solely on force, then you need to win 24/7 forever.
I think these statements are really compelling.
I would support all those statements. Again, the deep state who Benjamin Netanyahu worked for, the central bankers, the NGOs, the World Economic Forum, the World Health, all these forces behind the deep state, Benjamin Netanyahu was compromised years ago, whether it was bribery or blackmail or both, nobody knows. But we do know that Netanyahu was the head of the deep state in the Middle East. And so it stands to reason that he, in part, funded Hamas to fight both, so the deep state could have a war and fight both sides of the war. You need an enemy to fight a war. And, again, to stop the two-state solution, which Netanyahu probably in his heart has always opposed a two-state solution. But really and truly, it's the only solution, Marvin, if it can be enforced. And I think the idea that Trump brought to the table to use other Arab leaders from other Arab nations to form a governing body of a multinational Arab league, if you will, to control that Gaza Strip and the Palestinian territory. So it will not be run by Palestinians or Hamas. It will not be run by Israel. It will be run by a consortium of Arab leaders, which is really a great idea, I believe, because they will have peace at hand and they will have the best interest of the Arab people in that part of the world. And I do believe the end goal is peace. That is what Trump wants. He wants peace in Ukraine. He wants peace in the Middle East, and he's working toward that. Unfortunately, Netanyahu's in the way and has to be taken down. Marvin, I've always been told by my military contacts they're saving Israel for last. Israel will be the last of the deep state to be taken down. And I don't mean the Israeli people. I mean the Israeli government headed by Netanyahu.
So please tell us a few things about this investigation in Epstein list. Because we actually talked in our previous show that these are big secrets and very revealing. I mean, if we understand what happened on that island, we can understand a lot of what Mossad is doing with agents. So it seems that Donald Trump opposed to reveal all the truth about this scandal.
Because it's not time. Because revealing the Epstein list, Marvin, will take down the U.S. government and many of its institutions, many businesses. Why? Because there are thousands of leaders. They say as many as 80% of our Congress, senators and congressmen, were at Epstein Island over the years. So business leaders, heads of corporations, heads of charities, it would destroy the country. So it's got to be done at the right time, at the right point in history. And I think you will see this before Donald Trump's term is over. You will see the entire Epstein list revealed. Again, this is all military strategy, Marvin. Trump isn't acting alone. He's being guided by military. And you know who has the best intelligence in the world? The U.S. military. They have access to the best tools, the best intelligence, and they are telling Trump it's not time to expose the Epstein. We need to do other things first. We need peace in the world before you can unveil the Epstein, because that's going to create a lot of chaos. It will create chaos around the world. Leaders in France, leaders in Italy, leaders around the world that are on the Epstein list, Marvin, it can't be done yet.
He needs to prepare the stage. Okay, Scotty, we have a lot of topics, but I know you are run of time. So let's talk about a bit about how Donald Trump is relating with Big Pharma. And first, I want to put a short video.
Any link between vaccines and autism?
Vaccines are very interesting. They can be great, but when you put the wrong stuff in them, And, children get these massive vaccines like you'd give to a horse. Let's say 15 years ago, they had 1 in 10,000 that were born with autism. And now it's, think of it, 1 in 12, 1 in 10. Boys, 1 in 10 or 12. 2 different studies. Girls, it's 1 in 20. Can you imagine 1 in 20? And let's see, 22 years ago, it was 1 in 20,000. So there's obviously something artificial that's really wrong. And we think we know what that is.
Okay, so this is a big problem with autism because it is not normal, as Donald Trump underlined, to have 1 in 20,000 20 years ago, and now 1 in 10 or 1 in 12 children with autism. So evidently, obviously, this is artificial, and it is because of big pharma. So I saw that the Democrats and the media, mainstream media, most of them, attacks Donald Trump for this kind of statements, and they consider he is crazy. Something is not good in his head.
Well, these were the same media people that were being funded by USA to talk the talking points that vaccines are good. If you don't get the vaccine, you're going to kill your grandmother. And if you don't get the vaccine, you're a bad person. I believe that Donald Trump is playing the same game with Big Pharma and Pfizer that he's playing with Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, Marvin. He's keeping his enemies close. And I will suggest to you, before it's all over, the executives of Big Pharma will be tried for crimes against humanity for what they did in 2020 with the plandemic, as I called it, and the jabs, the vaccines. Occasionally in history, there has been an effective vaccine. There was a polio vaccine that came out in I believe, the 50s. Now, my cousin was one of the last to get polio, and he's been crippled his whole life because he had polio. I got like 3 vaccines when I was a kid: polio, measles and mumps, and one other. That's it. Back then, that's all that was being suggested. Over the years, they have created a couple of vaccines that did eradicate things like polio. Since then, Big Pharma has used vaccines as part of their depopulation plan. We understand that.
Exactly.
They've
There's
been
an
using
agenda,
it.
of course.
They've been using it to kill people. It's part of their depopulation agenda. Bill Gates is on camera admitting if we do a good job with vaccines, we can eliminate 15% of the world population and get,
we also.
And get many others sick, which is happening now. I've had nurses and doctors on my show that are treating vaccine injured people, Marvin. There's tens of thousands in every city of vaccine injured people. Trump knows this. Trump knows what Pfizer did. Trump is playing the game. He's bringing his enemies close in, like Netanyahu, like Pfizer, gaining their trust, only in the end to take them down. It's a brilliant strategy.
Because, in Romania, and not only, some of my friends said, how can you trust in Donald Trump when he signed a contract with Pfizer, these criminals, that they killed a lot of people in pandemic? So that means Donald Trump has been taken over by the globalists. And with Netanyahu, the same.
One could
Your
say
explanations are very useful because it's a strategy. You have in United States this lobby group, AIPAC, this is which is very, very strong. So you cannot make a move without being monitored by AIPAC, this Khazaro Jewish people.
Yeah, AIPAC is one of those NGOs that's funding is going to get cut off. There are still individual Jewish billionaires donating to AIPAC, but the money that AIPAC got from the U.S. government is done. It's over. It's a logical thought for anybody in any country, in Romania and Eastern, Western Europe, to say, hey, Trump's been compromised by the globalist. He's siding with Big Pharma and he's siding with Netanyahu. And I'm here to tell your audience, all the world's a stage. And it's a big movie we're watching. And get your popcorn, because it's not going to end with Trump siding with Big Pharma and Netanyahu. They are going to be taken down big time before 2028 rolls around and Trump's term is over.
So it seems that Trump cannot oppose directly in this moment with these very powerful groups. So he needs to play a game. He needs to be very, very smart to pretend that he is on their side, but to act in the opposite direction. So, Scotty, you told me that you want to speak about 3 domains: government, military, and cities. In the time remained, please approach these topics.
Yeah, well, these are the 3 areas in which Trump, from day one, he ran for government, ran for president in 2015, actually. He started to talk about draining the swamp. Well, now we're seeing the evidence. Draining the swamp in government, that was Doge's purpose. Elon Musk and his team found where all the money was going and all the dark money that was being used to fund nefarious organizations. That is over. The military in our streets of the United States, in cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., they'll come to New York. They're going to go to about 40, 50 cities in the end, Marvin, cleaning up the human trafficking, the drug trafficking. Oh, not to mention the tunnels that were built underground to traffic the children. They're all being destroyed in our cities. And the third component is the media. The mainstream media, Marvin, is got a 28% approval rating now in the U.S., the lowest of all time. When Trump first ran in 2016, the media had a 58 to 60% approval rating. 4 years later,
is anybody daring to talk about adrenochrome in the United States?
Well, we talk about it on Sovereign Radio for sure, because I think you remember I came across it firsthand at a Hollywood party one time. Yeah. I saw people using it, and actually set up a meeting with the dealer who was selling the adrenochrome and saw it firsthand. So there are people talking about it in the truth or alternative media, but not the mainstream media. They will not breathe a word of it yet. Again, timing. The mainstream media is going to be completely eradicated as we know it. In fact, Marvin, CNN's being run by a new management team that Trump has his hands on. So again, it's all timing. Things have to happen in sequence. Right now, world peace on the world stage is the priority.
Something else that we need to explain to people is that some expect that being president, Donald Trump can make an executive order, and everybody respect this order. So the situation is not like that, because the swamp is so ramificated, the deep state. So there are a lot of agencies that are hidden. They can act through some politicians. And this is actually what a democracy should mean. But this is not a real democracy. It is still used by this satanic, and they can put down Donald Trump if he does not respect what they want for the moment.
Trying, Marvin. In Chicago, for example, the mayor of Chicago, his name is escaping me. I think his last name is Reynolds. I'm from Chicago. I should know his name. The mayor of Chicago came out and said, we're going to have no ICE zones. We're going to put up signs where the immigration and the immigration border and customs agents and the military can't come into the no ICE zones. We're going to stop them pulling the illegal immigrants off the streets. We're going to stop them. They won't talk about the drug and human trafficking that they're stopping. So the governor of Illinois, Pritzker, who comes from the billionaire Pritzker family, he is telling Trump, you're not welcome in Illinois. So they are pushing back, they are resisting, and they are fighting. And I believe in the end, those that get in the way of stopping Trump from eradicating drugs and human trafficking. Listen, they're being used for the right purpose. You can believe me or not, the military is not in the United States streets of our cities to take United States citizens off the streets and harm the U.S. citizens. They're there to get the illegals. The drug cartels are huge, the human trafficking, the pedophilia, and all of the rest that goes with human trafficking, the tunnels underneath the ground. They're there to destroy that. And if you get in the way of that, Marvin, I believe people like J.D. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, will be facing serious criminal charges. Again, all in good time.
Well, Scotty, our elected president, Călin Georgescu, gave an interview last week, and he said that the world is moving to the so-called multipolarity. I mean, there are more than one world power, as was United States until recently. So now there are two more, China and Russian Federation. And it seems that these three presidents, Trump, Putin, and Xi Jinping, are collaborating behind the scene, and the globalists are relocated in European Union. And from this position, they still trying to keep war in Ukraine and some other plans to go back to their agenda of world hegemony, using United States, of course, firsthand. So what do you think about this huge transition in world stage?
Marvin, you're very intuitive. You have very good information. I have the same information. Three powerful leaders, the most powerful nations militarily, Russia, the United States, and China. Those leaders are working quietly in the background to bring peace on earth, to end the wars. And it is the deep state and the European Union that oppose it. They want to keep the wars going. Marvin, the only thing the deep state has left, the only bullets in their chamber they have left to fire is war. And that's why they put Antifa on the streets of the United States to fight back against our ICE agents cleaning up the streets and our National Guard. Trump designated Antifa.
Yes, we can see an image, BBC.
Yeah, Trump named them a terrorist organization so that they can legally scoop them up off the streets and put them in jail. And that's what's beginning to happen. Trump knew that Antifa, remember the Nazis had brown shirts. Remember the expression brown shirts? The Nazis had brown shirts who were in the streets doing the dirty work. Antifa are the brown shirts for the Democrats doing the dirty work. So they're being taken off the streets now. They're part of the war. The only thing the deep state, the central banking families that have run the world for hundreds of years, the only thing they have left, Marvin, is war. They need a war. They need a war for a lot of reasons. Certainly to stay in power, they will need a war. A World War III is what they really need.
Exactly. But as we can appreciate the situation, they have no means to succeed on this direction because they have no military, they have no political power. I mean, all the world, look at BRICS. BRICS is gaining more and more states. Now there are 20 states, but there are another 30 states that want to join BRICS. And without United States, they cannot win, as they tried to do during Biden administration.
Right.
So their chances are zero to win this war against Russia, and of course to expand this state of things in all the world.
You mentioned BRICS, Marvin. BRICS now, with the 20 nations that are a part of BRICS and the 30 more that applied, that represents 70% of the world population that will join BRICS. And between BRICS and the United States, there's your financial reset, because the BRICS are already, the countries are already trading outside of the petrodollar and the US fiat money. They're not using fiat dollars anymore. The BRICS
Exactly.
nations.
Very important.
Very important
De-dollarization.
reset. And this is all leading up to the reset. That's the other reason Trump won't put Netanyahu exposed. He won't expose the Epstein stuff, because it'll disrupt the financial reset that must come first.
Yes. Scotty, it was a pleasure to talk with you, and you gave us a lot of hope and understanding, a lot of lightening in these processes. So thank you very much, my dear friend. Good luck. I know that you are going in a meeting, very important meeting with somebody from Hollywood, and I know that you gave a lot of truth from your platform, Sovereign Radio, and we keep connection, and God help us. What can I say?
Thank you very much, Marvin, for having me. You know I'm a glasses half full guy, never half empty. So I present things in a very positive way, but I only present the truth as I know it to be. So there's a lot of reason to be optimistic. I believe Trump, Xi Jinping, and Putin are working together. We will see world peace, and we'll see people like Netanyahu that have been running the deep state put away, if not jailed for life, executed.
Yeah,
so we'll leave
see.
you on that note.
Maybe soon. Okay, thank you very much,
Thank
Scotty.
you, Marvin.
Thank you for
Great
our
to speak,
audience.
my friend.
God bless us.
God bless
Bye.
you.